Three, two, one. Welcome, everybody, to Geekvice, episode 268, proving any vice with enough geek can become a virtue. My name's Morph. That man's Kip. Good evening, Kip.
Good evening.
How are you doing after your week of travel?
Oh, it's so good to be home.
I know, right?
No, the trip was good. Trip was good. Just always good to be home.
Yeah, it is really good to be home. You forget how much, how awesome it is to be home until you're not at home, and um, that's kind of that's kind of the part that I think is nice. Is like when you get back and you're like, it's so good to be home. So
There's nothing better than the first night you sleep in your own bed after being gone a few days.
yeah, exactly.
So how was Houston, Texas for you?
It was hot. It was hot and muggy. But overall, the trip went well. Had some really good food down there. I will say, I am not a huge fan of Houston. It is not my favorite place in the world. But some of the people that work for the company that I work for down there were really good hosts. They took us to some really good food. We had some good Tex-Mex. We had some good, they called it Mex-Mex, which I thought was awesome.
Mex.
So that was really cool. It was good, and then we also had some really good Greek food down there. Believe it or not,
Nice.
right by our hotel was a little place called Just GRK, Just Greek, and it was like a little. I compare it to like a Chipotle for Greek. You know, it was like a kind of like a fast food Greek restaurant, and because the food didn't take long to cook or to have out to you, but it's kind of one of those like small hole in the wall type things, and it was really good. That was really good food, so that was good. Yeah.
Nice.
How about your trip to Arkansas?
Well, we didn't go to any place fancy, but we went to a place called Richard's. I guess you would say it's a butcher shop.
Okay.
And it's like a little grocery store and a butcher shop. And they had the special for the day was a bacon cheeseburger for $3.99.
What? Oh,
And of
man.
course, it came with nothing. It was just a burger.
But still.
But three of us got a bacon cheeseburger, a bowl of gumbo, and the total was less than $24.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
That sounds amazing.
And the food was really good.
Yeah.
So if you're in Fayetteville, Arkansas, you should go check out Richard's Meat Market, I think it's called.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I might have to. I don't know where. My wife's in Arkansas right now, which is kind of the funny part. Like, you were there last week, she's there this week. But I don't know where in Arkansas she is. So.
Hopefully it's nowhere where she hears banjo music or anything.
No, yeah, I hope not. She's down there for work stuff too. So, yeah, it's kind of funny that it worked out that way. You and I traveled on the same week, which was nice for the show sense. But yeah, so my wife was home with the kids, single parenting with the kids last week, and now this week I'm single parenting with the kids, and you know what? It's busy, but it's really not. It's the biggest thing is like trying to find time to do all the stuff. So it's like, oh, I can get you to all those events, all these things that you need to do on this day, but when am I going to feed you? Because at some point you have to stop going places to be able to cook something. So now
you know why McDonald's drive-thru is so popular,
right? Yeah, Monday was Sonic. Today we had an event at this kid's school where there was actually pizza there, so we got Domino's pizza. Tomorrow I am fixing spaghetti and meatballs. So one cooked meal, and then Thursday I'm not really sure what it's going to be because Reese, the oldest one, has football practice here in Gardner that one of our neighbors is taking him to, and then I've got the youngest one going to soccer practice up in the opposite direction. So, um, yeah, I don't know what we'll end up doing there, but Amber should be getting home or she will be getting home tomorrow. So, no, yes, today's Wednesday, right? No, today's Tuesday.
Today's Tuesday.
She'll be getting home on Thursday, so she will. We will do something Thursday night for dinner. I don't know what it is. Probably involves a restaurant.
Probably.
Cause
Can you blame her?
yeah, that I mean, there's just time, man, time, guys. How in the world, you know? Uh, God bless those people that are single parents all the time. It is definitely a lot of work. So, but enough about that stuff. I want to talk
No.
about some of the awesome stuff of traveling. So, I'm not a big fan of traveling. I don't like I really don't like driving in cars. Like I don't like long car rides. I grew up doing that stuff. So I got to fly. My wife had to drive this time, but I got to fly. And one of the coolest things about flying is them allowing you to use small electronic devices while you're sitting there in the plane, not being able to do anything. So the best part is walking in, sitting into a plane, um, sitting down in your seat. I was in a single seat. There was nobody next to me, which is awesome. Like, not.
That's awesome.
Let me rephrase that. There wasn't a seat next to me for somebody. That's how small
Oh,
this
okay.
plane was. Um, so I'm all by myself sitting there, and I pull up my tablet, put my headphones in, hit Netflix, and I've already got shows downloaded onto my tablet, and I can watch Netflix while I'm on the plane. That is freaking awesome. So, um,
Priorities, man.
yeah, I love that ability to be able to do that stuff. I like that Netflix has added that in. I don't travel a whole lot, so I don't get to utilize it very often. But man, is that nice! So, um, on this trip, I mean, it's a couple hour. It's like a 2.5 hour flight, direct flight from Kansas City to Houston, and I used that time plus the time in the evenings um, in the hotel to catch up on Netflix shows. So um, I watched the entire Netflix original Dark Crystal: The Age of Resistance, which we're going to talk about on a later episode where you have more time to spend on it because I really thought I have some very good things about that. And then I also finally got to watch the movie Bright with Will Smith and some other people. Netflix original show. Kind of, let's see, setting for that is like kind of like present day, except there's orcs and elves and mystical things, and magic has kind of been outlawed. And Will Smith is a police officer, and he has an orc partner. And orcs are kind of like it's. It was a very interesting movie. Let's put it that way. I know it's been out for a long time, and it got fairly high praise when it came out. But watching it, I was just kind of like, I got kind of lost in it. Um, the visuals were good.
What do you mean by lost in it?
It, I don't understand what was happening or why it was happening. Evil's trying to come take over the world, but why? Like, what was the motivation? Like, where's this this evil elf that was doing flips and doing crazy stuff? I didn't understand why. Like, I I didn't really, I don't know. I thought the movie was good to look at, and if honestly, if I turned my brain off and just watched it without thinking about it, I was like, yeah, overall that wasn't all bad. But then I started thinking about like, okay, well, like what were they really fighting against? Like somebody's trying to bring something back, but what was it? And how bad really was it? Like, and maybe it was just I just didn't buy in. I didn't get sold the full line of I didn't, I don't know. It just didn't, there seemed to be stuff missing. I felt like there should have been more. There needed to be more.
Well, probably because it's been a while since I've seen it, but I remember thinking this would have been a great series instead of a movie.
Yes.
And I think part of what you suffered from was there wasn't enough storytelling time to tell us exactly why things were the way they were, which
Yeah.
they could have accomplished with like a few seasons of 10 episodes each.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think you're exactly right there. I felt like there was more to be explored. There was more to be explained in order for the story to have more impact. Not meaning not that the story was bad. It didn't have the same impact. The the one part of it that I actually felt like was impactful was the orc police officer getting, I think it was called blooded, you know, but basically being accepted by the other orcs. He had been an outcast from the orcs and an outcast from the humans he was a police officer with because he was different than both and he didn't have a place to fit. And at the end of the movie, the orcs accepted him because he had died and then was brought back to life by a magic wand. But like that was good. I felt I kind of that was impactful in a small sense, but there was so much more to that movie that could have been much that part could have been more impactful if we really understood or dove into more on like why he was outcast from the other orcs. Was he just outcast because he wanted to be a cop and they didn't like cops because they were more like gangbangers? But he couldn't have been like,
And
was
I
he the
think that had a lot to do with it. I think it was the whole conforming with the humans and, giving and, basically, in their opinion, giving the bird to their culture.
yeah. But it sounded like his dad was a cop, or his dad maybe his dad wasn't a cop, but his dad was outcast too, and so why it where like why did it bother him so much if he grew up not being part of that culture? Why did it like what was the impact for him? Like why was he like that? I felt like there was just more they could have dove in. I don't even know who Will Smith's character was and why he was the way he was. I mean, other than I get he was shot at one point and his orc partner like chased a guy down, but they're like, why? It's like I didn't understand that part of it. Honestly, I felt like Will Smith's character was completely left without any growth or understanding. Like he was just there, and he was supposed to be the main character of the story. Um, and I thought it was interesting that he was able to pick up the wand at the end of the movie, which is probably a spoiler, but the thing's been out forever, so if you haven't watched it, why are you even listening to this? Um, but it, but I didn't feel like that impact was as good because or as strong of him picking up this wand because you kind of felt like it was going to happen anyway. It was like it was, I don't know. It didn't. you saw one person go like get evaporated because he picked up the wand, but it's just this one thing. Where if it was a series and there was maybe multiple artifacts and you understood a little bit more of why, like why was magic so outlawed? What happened that made magic so bad? Having more of that might have made the fact that this wand was there a bigger deal. I don't know. I felt like there was so much more that they could have hit on, and I think you're right. I think if they would have made it a series, it might have been a lot better. But
I think so. I mean, it wasn't bad. I remember watching it and thinking it was decent. It wasn't so great that I can remember every little detail about it or watched it again.
right,
But it wasn't terrible. But I just felt like I just remember when we finished watching it, the wife and I were talking. It's like would have been a better series.
yeah, yeah,
Just would have been a better series.
completely agree. So yeah, there you go. If you want to watch it, it's on Netflix. So, and if you're stuck in a plane for 2 hours, it's perfect because it's like 2 hours long. So there you go. Worked. I got to mark it off my. It's now off of my Netflix list. So
Well,
I
there you go.
I took care of that one. So that was my goal for my trip, was to be able to knock some stuff off my list, and I was able to do that. So go me.
Hey, you do things differently than I do. That's for sure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
What?
I take an actual book and I convince myself I'm going to read it, and then I don't.
So on my tablet, which it's sitting upstairs on my bedside table. On my tablet, I have a whole bunch of comic books on there, and I think it was on the way back when I watched Bright. After I finished that, we still had a few minutes where we were, um, we're getting the descent into Kansas City, and then sitting on the. So I was reading a comic book on there. So I had a book with me. I took books too, but I really wanted to watch some shows on Netflix to. I have a really. It's my list has gotten really long on Netflix. And I was like, I need to start maybe taking it down a little bit. Makes me feel like I accomplished something when the
There
list
you go.
gets smaller. So, especially when they're series that are completed. Like I still have Breaking Bad on that list. You know what? I could go watch that whole thing and finish it, and then I could take it off the list because they're not going to add any more seasons to it. But I haven't done that yet. So, I think what is it? I can't remember what it was I had tagged as my next one to watch on there. Um, I don't remember. But it was another one of those. It's a series. It is Black Mirror, which I think is a BBC's show. But
Yeah, and each episode has nothing to do with the last episode you just watched, that kind of thing.
yeah, yeah, I heard really good things about it, and so I really kind of want to watch it. So I think that's the next one that I'm gonna tag on Netflix. So anyway, so what book did you take on your trip that you didn't end up reading?
Um, it's a book called. Dang it!
It was really
Can't
good,
believe you
wasn't
asked me
it?
that question. Try it over here just a second.
See, I completely, railroaded Kip by not letting him know that I was going to ask this question. But that's the fun
Yeah,
part of it.
yeah, yeah. It's called Ego is the Enemy.
Mm. Is Ego a person, or is this Ego the planet from Guardians of the Galaxy?
It's your ego and why
Oh,
it keeps getting in your own way.
is that like you're too full of yourself, but also is it talk about not being confident enough?
It's mostly about being too confident in
Hmm.
yourself to the point that you've heard the saying, well, not the saying, but you've heard people say stuff like, you know, people who think they're smart are probably the dumbest ones in the room.
Yes.
People who are too confident in themselves kind of get in the way of themselves.
That's an interesting book. I could
Yeah.
definitely I could definitely pass that off to a few people.
Like the last chapter I read was called Become a Student. It's basically about, you should always be mindful that there's always something to learn.
Yeah.
And, the people that struggle with that are the people who already think they know everything about a certain subject or whatever.
Oh
So
yeah, absolutely.
it's more of a just, I don't know what you'd call it. It's
Kid
preaching
trying
to
to
the
get
choir,
smarter.
me reading it. Like, I already believe in all this, I already bought into the whole thing, so I'm reading it kind of as an affirmation, I guess. I don't know.
Hey, that's not all bad. Not all bad. Well, so we talk about smart people and people knowing too much. Let's talk about this board game situation you've kind of gotten yourself into.
Well, it's an interesting board game situation, and that is so every Thursday we play board games, and I work at an engineering firm, so most of the people are engineering background type of people. And we play with this one who, if he doesn't play a game well, he wants to know why. So, one of the first times he played with us, I brought out viticulture, and he got last place by a long margin, and it just frustrated him that he sucked so much at the game. And then we brought out Space Base, and again, he did terrible, and it bothered him that he did terrible. So it bothered him so much that he bought Space Base, played it a few times with his family, and then just pretty much just studied the game, studied the cards, figured out combinations of certain cards that would maximize your chances of winning. And then the next time we played, he beat everybody badly. So the question in my mind was, do you does somebody studying the board game to win change your experience in the game? Does it bother you that this person does it? Do you not mind? Does it give you an extra challenge? Now this person has a leg up and you still want to see if you can beat them? That kind of challenge? Or does it bug you to the fact that you didn't think of it yourself? I kind of came down in actually two camps. One is like, why didn't I think of this myself? I
Yeah,
own the game. I could have
right.
done this. And then the other camp I came down on to was I play the game for the experience, for hanging out with my friends.
Hmm.
Winning and losing is not important.
Right.
I'm going to play the
Yeah.
game to the best of my ability. I'm not going to purposely throw a game to make somebody feel better or get upset if I don't win. But it's the experience, not it's the journey, not the destination, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's where I fall on it. What are your thoughts on that?
So I really kind of like so when you brought up this topic, it immediately in my head I went, "Oh shit, I've been that guy." Not necessarily with board games, but I have done this similar thing with turn-based strategy games. That is my like that's what I really love playing. One of them being Civilization 4 that came out many years ago, and I did it again with Civ 6 that's out here just recently. And maybe to the extreme, the most extreme case of it was with XCOM 2, which I've played on the Geekvice gaming channel. And with XCOM 2, I went so far into I set up a spreadsheet that gave me different things. So you get characters in there get different stats that are randomly applied, but there's your range at which they're going to show up when you first get these rookie characters, and then as you build based off of what that stat is, there's certain things that can be optimized, whether it's like, hey, this stat's really high, so that would make them a really good one, this type of character, or this stat's high, so it would be this type of character. And so I set up a spreadsheet to help me keep track of that, so that as I'm playing, I can look at it and go, okay, I've done this here and I've done this here, um, to help maximize the characters within the game, the basically your pieces in the game. So it's very similar to kind of what you had said he had done with the space-based game, where it's finding the spots that maximize the best your opportunity to win, but also to increase your opportunity, or the gains that you can get from um, certain things. And so I think the guy's actually really smart for doing it. I've never thought about doing it from a board game sense, but I think part of the reason why I've never thought of it is because, in one, I can never remember anything, which is why I write so much stuff down. And in a board game, you're not going to be sitting there with a cheat sheet piece of paper of like, oh yeah, do this and do that. Like, oh, when you get this card, you should do. Here's your couple options that are your best options to do. Do one of these. You know, it's like that cheat sheet is what That's what I rely on in video games. Is I have two monitors here. I got one where I got the game going, and on my other monitor I have my cheat sheet of different things that I need to look at certain situations. So that's part of the reason why I've never thought to do it on a board game, but it's really genius. Like I think that's a smart approach. But
Yeah.
there comes this fine line to it though. Why are you doing it? So if you're doing it because winning is that important to you, then I think that's the wrong reason to do it. But for me, I find the enjoyment of breaking the games down to um, to different synergies, if you would. Like, hey, this works really well with this. A board game that comes to my mind of doing this to and breaking it down more would be like a game like Legendary, a deck building game where you have all these different characters and cards that you could collect, but it's like, oh, hey, this character works really well with this character, so if you have both of those in your deck, they play well together. Some of that kind of stuff would be fun to dive into, of like, oh yeah, you know to me, that's the fun in it. It's not necessarily the winning that I would do it for. It's the going through and breaking down the different um balances, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I absolutely know what you mean. And the guy we game with, I don't think he does it because he just absolutely has to win. He is just so strategic and smart
Yeah.
that I think when he doesn't win, he's like, obviously I did something wrong, and he wants to know what that is.
Well, and that can be applied to so many different things too,
Yo,
just not,
absolutely. That's
and
why I'm
that's,
not giving him any crap about it. But it's like
but it is
I
kind of one of those. It's like, why
understand
didn't
it.
I
I
think of that?
understand the whole. Yeah, and it also brings up another thought in my head is, he's not cheating, he's not doing anything but really understanding the game he's playing. And if you think about that, that's something I don't even do with D&D.
Yeah.
And there's a game you should study and know what your character can do, what different things are going on, um, how things work.
Yeah. Yep.
And I don't even do it for that game. And
I,
it's like, you know what? This guy is opening my eyes to a whole different way of thinking here. Maybe I'm just not putting enough effort in.
You know what? That really is a good point, and I hadn't even thought about that side of it. Yeah, you know what? We really sucked at that. I still
Yeah.
do. Yeah.
If it wasn't
Um,
for RDM, shoot, nothing did
yeah.
get accomplished.
You know what? Maybe we should read the player's handbook, understand the rules for the game. Yeah, or hell, just understand the powers that your character has. Not even the rules for the game, just the abilities that your character can do. Huh? Yeah, should have done that.
Well, yeah, there's tons of time playing my own character I built, and the DM will grab my character sheet, flip over, and point to something. It's like, oh yeah, I guess my character can do that. All right.
Yeah.
So, with that said, I don't think studying a game is such a bad idea.
No.
As long as your like you just said a little bit ago, as long as your motivation isn't the I just have to win.
Yeah.
If the motivation is I just want to understand this game better and I want to understand what mistakes I'm making that causes me not to do so well, I'm good with that. But the fact that he even does this at all got me, it was like, holy cow, why aren't I doing this? This, now I feel dumber than I normally feel.
Well, and that's it's interesting because I kind of now I want to go do this. Like now I really want to go break out some of the games that I have. Like you know, I want to go through gizmos and look at the different cards and be like, oh, okay, yeah, this one would work really good with this, and these things would play well together. And um, but I mean, you kind of in there's some games that thinking about it, like gizmos is one of those like you have to be able to look at what's on the table. You have multiple different options, and it's what does work well together and finding building a strategy while you're going, which is kind of nice. Which allows somebody who um, understands the little synergies between it. I, but I also like the idea that you had brought up before is that if you enjoy the journey, having a player at the table that is like this guy has got to make it, well, it could make it fun or really frustrating, one way or the other. Because nobody likes a dynasty. Nobody likes somebody who just kicks the crap out of everybody. Nobody likes the Patriots, all right? So, but having somebody
Right.
that pushes you and challenges you to come up with new ideas on how to like counter the strategies he's created, it's almost gonna push you to either study yourself or just trial and error constantly. Every time you play, try a different idea and a different approach. And is that really all bad either?
And and if we're being honest with ourselves, a game like Space Base, you can study the cards. There's a lot of cards.
Yeah.
There's a lot of combinations. To get the perfect setup every time, it's just not going to happen. Um, this time he did, but next time are those cards even going to come up during the play of the game? I mean, you shuffle the cards, we don't get through all of them.
Right.
Are those cards even going to show up?
Yeah.
So he knew enough about the game to go, oh, if I get this card and this card,
Mm-hmm.
and on top of that, he also had to set up a, a, a situation in which having those two cards made a difference. If he doesn't even do the setup part correctly, it means nothing.
Yeah.
But and and basically what it was is he had a card in the 8 slot that had um I can't remember what it was. But he had like just a stack of them in space. So anytime the 8 came up, he was getting like 30 space bucks or something each time. That's a little high. Probably 18 space bucks each time. Well, he got the card that said switch this one and the 8 spot. So now the 8 is in a spot like 5, which comes up all the time.
Oh
And he
wow.
just cleaned house with us. But if he doesn't get that card, he
Maybe.
doesn't get, if there's not enough 8s out there or whatever to buy to load a slot, it doesn't work.
Right.
So yeah, he studied the game and it looked like it really paid off, but it was more of an understanding of the situation he had in front of him with the cards presented to him, with enough of an understanding how the game worked to go, ooh, if I do this and this, they can't stop me, and that's what he did.
Yeah. And that's the part
And
of, that's
I can't fault him for that. That's just being smarter than everybody at the table.
well, and that's the part of the strategy games that I really enjoy. Like that's the part of games, whether it's board game or video game or whatever kind of, that strategy, that idea of being able to build a, hey, this is the way that it can work, but then being able to manipulate the little things off to the side. Like, okay, we can take this idea, this is our main strategy, and then we have this little offshoot that if this changes halfway through the strategy, we can go this way, or we can go this way, or we can adjust this. Like, that's the part of strategy games that I think is so awesome, and that's the part that, in my head, that's the chess of a strategy game, and that's still the best strategy game out there is chess, and this living, breathing strategy that has to be able to evolve. You have to be able to act and interact and react to different things that are happening, and so I think that's really cool. I'm glad that I kind of want to meet this guy and shake his hand because I think that is a great idea, and um, it makes me want to try that on for me.
Yeah, yeah.
Hope,
And, I shouldn't have been surprised they did that because the first few times we play a game, he'd do terrible at it. And then the next time we play, he's like, I want to play it again. I got to figure out what I'm doing wrong. And if he still did terrible about it, then we have to play it again.
yeah,
He's just one of those guys. And so, and woe is me, I get to keep playing the game. That's the worst thing that happens to me. So, you
right,
know,
yeah. You're not hurting. You're not hurting at all.
not even in the least. But,
Uh,
I just thought it was an interesting concept of actually opening up a board game at home, studying the rules, studying the cards, seeing what's available to you. I found that interesting,
yeah.
and sadly, I didn't think about it myself.
Well, and I kind of want to know more about like exactly where he's finding the information to do some of that stuff because that's the other part. When you get into video games, there's always these people out there that have gone and broken down the different parts to everything and um, gone into the code of the video game and found all the little pieces that you need, and then it's just a matter of taking all those pieces and putting them together. Um, that's what I did with XCOM 2. Was I just found information that other people had parsed from the system from the game and put it together. But in a board game, are there those same kind of resources? Is there somebody who's gone through all the cards in Space Base and broken out the, hey, here's here's these top cards for this type of thing, and here's the top cards for these type of thing, this type of strategy, and kind of set up some of that stuff to where he wouldn't have to do all the legwork himself? Or did he really go through and study each one of the cards and find the different pieces? I want to know more about where he found his information at.
Well, I know for a fact with Space Base, he just did it himself.
That's awesome. That's a dedication that
That is awesome,
most people don't have.
myself included. I
Yeah,
don't have that dedication.
yeah, no, me neither. So
Yeah, that's a level of want to that I'm not sure I'll ever have.
yeah, right.
But
But
it
that's
was
cool.
fascinating, and and of course I get home and I have this IKEA bag that I put my traveling games in, and I'm thinking, yeah, I should do that too. Still haven't unzipped the bag. It's not going to happen.
Right.
I'd love to say it's gonna, but it's not going to happen.
Yeah. Well,
My
and I,
next learning will take place because I played the game and picked a strategy that sucked.
yeah, yeah. That's it's just gonna make me dive into the internet a little bit deeper because I want to know, I want to see if maybe there's a good place out there to get some good strategy tips for specific board games. There's lots of board game places or like places on the internet that'll walk you through how to play a game. But are there any of them that will really dive into the strategy of a particular board game? That'd be interesting to find out.
I don't know. This could be another avenue for Geekvice to go down.
Shit, man, I gotta be way smarter than I am to be able to do something like that.
I was gonna say we're gonna have to find somebody else because it's not gonna be
Because
me.
neither one of us are that smart. Yeah, I, I can take the different pieces and put it together, but I need somebody to do the legwork for me. So, hey, maybe you need to talk to this guy and see if he wants to write down his strategy ideas and his concepts, and we'll put something together for that. That'd be interesting.
Yeah,
It's cool. Hmm, that's it.
it is, and it's. I don't even get the rules right most of the
which,
time.
which, if anyone
Let's
has
just
played
throw
a
it out
yeah,
there.
if anyone has played a board game with Kip, they understand that the rules are only there as guidelines, not actually to be followed.
Well, and it's not by design that I don't follow the rules. I just forget.
Hey, but you won't forget to add the Cylons into the Battlestar Galactica deck anymore.
I'll never forget that ever again.
You will double check and triple check that before you even start. Yes.
Yeah, to the point if I even have to cheat to look to see to make sure, I'm gonna.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Oh, yeah, that still was probably the funniest game because nobody really even thought we all still thought you did. Like everyone still swore there was a Cylon on there and there wasn't. And
Yeah, because we almost lost with nobody fight against.
yeah, this is the most interesting game of Battlestar Galactica ever.
Yeah, yeah, and again, you brought it up. I I can't live it down. It may be on my tombstone. This guy forgot to add Cylons to this Battlestar Galactica game.
It'll just say John Golden, the man always against Cylons. Yeah. Oh, that's yeah. I'm
Something.
never gonna let you live it down.
Yeah, I wouldn't if I was you.
Yeah. Oh man, I love it when you come with these topics because these topics are so much fun and it gets me thinking. And now my brain is going, and I'm not gonna be able to sleep tonight. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna dive deep into the bowels of the internet to try to find to see what's there. So, um, I,
Well, good luck to you, man. You were
yeah,
just talking about how you don't have the time for stuff. Good luck to you.
yeah. Now I just I'll just be up until midnight or 1, 2 o'clock in the morning looking at stupid shit on the internet that I shouldn't really like. I don't really need to spend time doing. I should probably sleep at some point, but eh, sleep's
Still
for
overrated.
it's for the birds. All right, well, I've got to go find some stuff on the internet, so let's wrap this thing up here.
Somebody needs time.
All right, everybody, you know the drill. Go check out our blog at geekvice.blogspot.com. You can follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/geekvice. I'm not confident and know that I need to go learn things, so Kip's going to go read a book. And you could follow Kip on Twitter at Kip Killigan. He will tell you on Twitter how he's not reading this book. You can follow me on Geekvice. What else is there? The YouTube channel. Go subscribe to the YouTube channel. go search for Kip Morph on YouTube or go to our Facebook page. You can click subscribe right from there. And of course, as always, you can reach us by email at geekvice@gmail.com. Thanks everyone for listening to our ramblings, and we will see you next time.
Later.
This podcast is part of the Podcast Arcade Network.